Welcome to the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast, where we break down Bendis' iconic run on Ultimate Spider-Man, issues 1 through 160 in Earth 1610. I'm Zach, and with me today is the most demure podcast host of all time.
Good morning. What's demure mean?
Oh, I thought maybe you would know from working in a school.
No.
Okay.
I'm stupid. I'm a stupid person.
It's what the kids are into these days, you know? That's so demure. That's so mindful. What
are you talking about? These are not the words that I hear the kids say.
Cutesy. Not very cutesy of you. No, it's not.
What? How old are these kids?
I don't know, dude. It's a TikTok thing now. They like this language. It's like they got so tired of everything being like extreme and weird and skibbity that they're going back and finding some like Emily Dickinson ass words.
Trust me. They still say skibbity every two fucking words. It's still the most annoying thing ever. One of them that they're saying a lot is like they're going to sell something. They'll be like, Mr. Opad, I'm going to sell this test. And it's like they're going to like fail it, right?
I've never heard that.
Or if they like made a bad play in the football game, they'll be like, oh, I sold the team or I sold the game or something, right? So I actually kind of like that one, if I'm being honest. And then the other one I heard a lot this week was that Donald Trump is a Sigma.
Oh, that was their takeaway from the debate?
Yeah. Yep. I don't know that much about it, but.
Yeah, I think he got cooked because even my like apolitical.
So you think he sold the debate?
I think he probably sold the debate. The apolitical people in my life, who, if anything, probably lean Republican, are making jokes about, oh, I have a concept of a plan, and in Springfield, they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs.
That was one of the things that those were like two of the only things that I've seen about it, and I did think that like that the clip about like having a plan, they're like, do you have a plan? And he's like, I am going to have a plan if I'm president. Okay. That's hilarious.
Yeah. You know, it's bad when like the non-political people in your life are like in on the joke.
Yeah. Like me.
Yeah. That's the only reason I think he sold the debate. Honestly, I watched the first 10 minutes and I kind of thought he was winning because like he hadn't said anything super stupid yet, you know? It was like clearly lies, but I was like, oh, you know, he's kind of keeping his composure and, you know, maybe Kamala Harris seems a little rigid and robotic, and I think for a lot of people, that'll be enough to say that he won, and then I guess I turned it off right as it started getting crazy.
So, yeah. Well, that's awesome. I hope that they both do well. And I hope that both of their parents are proud of them more than anything.
Jeez, I love these choices, man. I hate that someone has to lose. Can't they both be president?
I agree. Isn't that how it used to be? Way back when the country was founded, that is what it was, I think. Whoever lost was the vice president.
Yes.
Know? And would it be better if it went back like that?
Dude, no. What is the big weakness of that strategy?
But they would have to at least agree on some things. They wouldn't be able to just completely like demonize everything, right?
You think?
I don't know. I don't know. I just had this thought for the first time 5 seconds ago.
Okay, let's say your side loses. So now your candidate of choice is the vice president. What's like the first thing you're encouraged to do?
Assassinate the president.
Yeah, go out and kill the winner. That's what it would have happened if that had like stayed long enough for people to get polarization.
I guess that's true. Let's not do that.
Yeah. No, the way to do it is actually ranked choice voting. I think ranked choice voting is sick because then, like, say you wanted a... No, seriously.
I think that ranked choice voting is sick also. Like, cool skateboard tricks.
Do you actually have an opinion on ranked choice voting?
I mean, I definitely think it's good. And they should have, like, a third party also, and that would be good. Anything that gives more options would be better for, you know, democracy.
Yeah.
Tell me about your ranked choice voting.
Well, it's like if there's a third party candidate that a lot of people really like, but say, well, they're not going to win, so there's no sense in voting for them. It'd be a wasted vote. In ranked choice voting, that's not the case. You can put your third party person as your top option, and then if they don't get enough votes where like they're eliminated, whoever your second option gets your vote. So it would allow for like third parties to actually exist, which I think everyone would love.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true, Zach. Were you a political science major?
I was not. I'm just a dork.
Just a guy.
I'm just a man.
Okay. Any other political talk you want to get out of the way here?
No, but I can use that as a segue for something.
Awesome.
So, you know who is like maybe one of the most famous proponents of ranked choice voting?
John Oliver.
I didn't know that. Is that true?
I think that he does the Last Week Tonight Show, and they always do like a big segment on something every week, and I believe he's done a segment or two on ranked choice voting.
Okay, well that's cool, and I can kind of see that. But when I found ranked choice voting, one of the like big people who was pushing it was Chris Novoselic, the bassist of Nirvana, and his bandmate was kind of in the news this week. I was sitting at work, and the woman across from me just gasped and said, "Oh my God, Dave Grohl." And I was like, "What, did he die?" And she was like, "No. He had a child with someone that wasn't his wife." And I was just like sitting there waiting for more. John, am I like crazy for thinking that like this is a nothing burger?
Yeah. It's kind of a big deal when a guy has a baby with somebody who's not his wife.
I'm not saying like what he did was right.
I feel like that's no.
I'm saying it doesn't affect us to the point where you would like gasp at work and say, "Oh my God, Dave Grohl."
No, I guess that's true. But like, I don't know if I was reading that. If I was reading that and I was at work and it came across, and I happened to be in my office with my office mate as I was reading it, I would probably be like, "Oh, do you know the guy from Foo Fighters?" And she'd be like, "No." And I'd be like, "Oh, well, he had a baby with a woman that wasn't his wife." And that'd probably be the end of it. But I probably would say something.
Okay. I mean, that's fine, but this woman's response, which is really funny because she's like 80, yes. but also like people online were like practically falling down and like punching the ground and screaming, "No,
really?
Why him? I thought he was the good one." And it's like, just don't worship famous people. Yeah, I can assume like a rock star probably doesn't live a perfect life, and like it sucks for his family. I feel for them, but like this shouldn't be newsworthy, and it shouldn't ruin your day.
Yeah, that's how I remember seeing a lot of things back when like John Mulaney and his wife split up.
They did
and
that
everyone
to him
was
too.
Like, "What? How could they split up?" He would always talk about how much he loved her, and you know,
people just have weird
relationships
with like celebrities. Like they lock onto a certain celebrity and are like, they should have been better.
Come on, John.
Do you remember when Tiger Woods' scandal popped off and his name was like a dirty word for like a year?
Yes. I know South Park has a pretty funny Tiger Woods episode about like sex addiction and all that stuff.
Again, I don't know how many times I have to say this. I don't like condone it. I just don't.
It kind
understand.
of sounds like you are, though.
No. I just don't understand how people make it out to be like even a top 10 problem in their life.
Yeah, it is funny how they were all. It's like, how could Tiger Woods go around cheating on his wife? It's like, well, he is really rich and famous and successful, and you know, it's not that surprising that celebrities cheat on their spouses, right?
Right.
Should we be talking about this? Is this
I don't know.
Okay.
It's not very cutesy, not very demure of us, I guess.
Very cutesy.
We're above the gossip. Anyways, Let's hear it from our sponsor, Foo Fighters.
Every business says they're better. But the ones that earn and display the BBB seal back it up. It instantly identifies businesses that are committed to operating with integrity, honoring promises, and telling the truth. Makes you wonder why every business doesn't have it. So look for it, because it's looking out for you. That's why it's the sign of a better business. And find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
Let's do it. Ultimatum 4 and Spider-Man 132. We're like on the cusp of the last issue here, kind of.
I know. And we kind of get a cliffhanger leading us into it at the end of today.
Spoilers.
Yep. Teasers. All right. Ultimate Spider-Man issue 132. This one's written by Brian Michael Bendis, penciled by Stuart Immonen, inked by Wade Von Graubadger, colored by Justin Ponzer, and lettered by Corey Petit. And we open on Kenny, Kitty, Gwen, and MJ climbing onto the roof of a building in Brooklyn, which is very weird to me. How did they scale this building?
Let me guess, because it's not a real building in Brooklyn.
I mean, I don't know. It might be. But also, they were just in Battery Park. So I said this is a real Empire State of Mind moment. It's like how Jay-Z's like, now I'm in Battery Park. Now I'm over in Brooklyn. Now I'm up in Tribeca. Now I'm down in Harlem. It's like they're just spawning all over New York. And it looks like it's impossible to cross.
So how far away are these places? Where were they last time?
They were in Battery Park. So what they would have had to have done is basically walk across downtown New York and get to the Brooklyn Bridge and cross the Brooklyn Bridge.
Okay, well, they are on, we do see the Brooklyn Bridge.
We do, yep.
That is the Brooklyn Bridge.
It is, yep. You know how you can remember the order of the bridges in New York, John? I learned this on my boat tour.
How?
With the anagram, is this an anagram? I don't know. BMW. Brooklyn, Manhattan, Williamsburg. From south to north.
BMW, okay.
BMW, yeah. From south to north, that's the order.
The next thing I was going to say is, but you'd have to know which comes first in which direction you're looking at it. Because like this picture, I can see two bridges. And one, I wouldn't have been able to tell you there's more than one bridge. I obviously don't know anything about this kind of stuff. But I also don't know my north and south, so I wouldn't know which one is which.
Well,
because one isn't physically higher than the other, and that's what north means.
Yeah, that's true. Wow, you're cooked, man.
Yeah.
You can tell which one the Brooklyn Bridge is just based off of like how it looks, though, right?
Dude, I couldn't tell you what the Brooklyn Bridge looks like. I know what the Golden Gate Bridge looks like because of the intro to Full House.
Okay.
And that's about it.
All right.
And Magneto moved it that one time in a movie.
He did. Yeah, that was kind of sick.
That was.
I could nerd out and give you some facts about the Brooklyn Bridge, but I'm going to spare you and the listener today.
If you were really a jerk, you would make me put up with it, and then you just edit it out for the listeners.
Oh my God. Okay,
so I would just have to sit here being like, wow, that's cool. The listeners are loving this for 10 minutes.
Okay, so it was 9/11 this past week, right? And I can see the Indiana 9/11 memorial from my window at work. And so we were watching people all day coming in, like, paying their respects and stuff. And 9/11 kind of came up at my work. And when I tell you my special interest activated like I was a sleeper agent, an hour later, John, I was still talking about like land reclamation in New York and how they found a pirate ship underneath, or not a pirate ship, but like an old ship underneath the World Trade Center. And, oh, here's the renderings for a building that they're gonna build in Midtown that I'm super psyched about.
Why? It was that, did they find that stuff after 9/11?
Yeah, during the cleanup, they were like, hey, there's a ship under this building.
Oh, interesting.
Because that used to be part of the water.
Huh, that's interesting. I bet the listeners are loving this.
Yeah. Anyways, I bet my coworkers were too.
No, just kidding. That is.
I had to catch myself, and I was like, how long have I been talking about architectural history of New York? Okay, so they're on this building in Brooklyn, and Kitty has to help Kong and basically pull him over the ledge onto the roof. And so they're up high, they've found the high ground, they're like looking at the destroyed city, and they see something purple around Soho and wonder what it is. And John,
I do love that Kong is in like every issue now, and I know I've said this before, and that it's a Brian Michael Bendis stand-in, because he's just like quite literally just getting dragged through the story at this point. They're like, "Come on, Brian Michael Bendis, we've got stuff to do over here."
That is funny. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way. She like pulls him over the ledge, and you kind of get this sense he was like wheezing trying to climb this building.
And he's like, "No, I've got it, Kitty. I don't need any help. It's fine."
I said they're like wondering if this purple thing is around Soho, and I said it should really be Greenwich Village that they're pointing at. I don't think Bendis knows New York geography that well.
I don't think he does either.
Yeah.
But he would have fooled me.
That's true. You know that you don't know what Greenwich Village is, but you know that that's where Doctor Strange lives.
I
think you would.
I know that Doctor Strange lives on Bleecker Street, and I know that he lives in the Sanctum Sanctorum. And if you gave me a multiple choice, I think I could have come up with Greenwich Village, but I would not have been able to get that from memory.
Okay. And they start asking, "Hey, where's the army or the Ultimates?"
And I'll just also say that's why multiple choice tests are better tests, and they do a better job of, it's just a little teacher knowledge. They do a better job of showing comprehension than like tests where the kids have to come up with answers on their own from memory. Even though it might seem like the other way, you're like, well, they should know it, right? They should be able to. But when you see it, then you might remember it. So, anyway.
Good pedagogy.
Don't know what that word means either.
Oh, it's like Shyla had to learn it for her master's degree. It's like the theories behind how people learn.
Yeah. But obviously in some classes like math, you can't really do that as well, right? They've got a math problem. They need to be able to solve it. So you can't always, right?
Sure.
Anyway,
but one could say that
the listeners are loving this.
Multiple choice tests are like the ranked choice voting of the school system, right?
One could say that.
So the kids start asking, "Hey, where's the army or the Ultimates or the Fantastic Four?" And I think it's funny that they don't even for a moment consider the Ultimate X-Men as like heroes that would deal with this. And they're like,
they're even with Kitty. Huh.
That's true. Yeah, they forgot her people. They're like, why aren't any of them doing anything? And Gwen says they might all be dead. And I think it's a nice beat that the recently realived Gwen is constantly thinking about death now. Because we just saw a couple issues ago, she had like a panic attack over the thought of dying again.
Yeah.
And now she's the one who brings this up. I think that's a good little undercurrent.
Yeah, I agree.
And then Kitty says, "God, I hope Peter's okay." And we see MJ scowling at her before socking Kitty right in the nose.
Yeah, I think that's stupid.
Yeah, I was certain we were both going to have thoughts over this. And MJ starts yelling, "Why did you send him in there?" And she lunges at Kitty, trying to choke her. But Kitty phases through MJ. And Mary Jane yells, "You'll never understand. You'll never understand how much I love him." And Kitty says, "Of course I do. I love him just as much as..." And Kong and MJ look at her shocked. And Kitty says, "I didn't send him in. He went to do what he could, just like all of us. I would go too if I could get there. If I could swing or fly, you know I would go too. And Mary Jane starts to collapse, and Gwen helps her down as MJ cries some nonsense.
What nonsense does she cry?
She's just saying words.
She says, "Get him back, help him."
No, it's when she's like, this is the world, this is something else. This is...
Yeah.
She's just waking out, creating problems instead of being the solution.
Exactly. Do something proactive, Mary Jane Watson.
Yes. Why aren't you going to fight Magneto? Everyone else is that.
I agree.
She tells Kitty to get him back and help him, and Kitty says, "You're right," and phases through the floor.
She does theoretically have some goblin powers that could reemerge.
Oh, yeah, MJ. I kind of forgot about that. That is funny. It'd be cool if Gwen still had her Venom powers.
Yeah. Let's get all three of these ladies going to help out.
Yeah. Dude, I hate this scene. I mean, this just sucks. This is consistently one of my least favorite scenes in the entire run. And, like, one of the big groaners when I think about it. It's like this, Doc Ock saying it was never the arms, it was the metal, I could control the metal. And something else that's coming up where I'm like, oh my god, I hate that so bad.
Yeah, it was pretty stupid.
They just have a cat fight over who loves the boy more at the end of the world. I mean, this is like 15 9/11s. I don't mean to keep bringing up 9/11, but like Ultimatum is like the worst thing that has ever happened in livable memory. And these girls are just literally fighting each other over Peter Parker.
Well, they're not really fighting each other. It's more just Mary Jane.
Yeah, okay. She goes
like
crazy.
A crazy person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she also, saying like, why did you send him in there? Of course, Kitty didn't send him in there. She's not his like captain, He just went. That's Kitty's what he does.
Oh, I'm sorry I made your boyfriend Spider-Man.
Now I guess from Mary Jane's perspective, and I think I at least thought this at the time. I don't know if it was said on the episode, but it would be strange because Peter and Kitty did like phase up above and then he just left. So, right, that would be weird for MJ,
She let him out of the train. She essentially opened the door for him.
I feel like she just like grabbed him and jumped him out really quickly.
I mean, she did.
Like he didn't really, it's not like he was like, okay, I've got to go help. Bye, MJ. I love you. And then it happened. I think it was like very, very, so maybe that would be a little strange, but not like this. I mean,
this is such an overreaction.
Yeah. And poor Brian Michael Bendis.
Oh.
Except not really, because there's more than one type of love. She could love him as a friend, She's happy with Kong, right? I have plenty of female friends that if I thought they were dead, I would like cry because I love them without like, So maybe that's just what we're seeing. Maybe Brian Michael Bendis is still, he's still fine.
What? I wouldn't hold it against Kitty if she did still have feelings for Peter, though, because that was her boyfriend, and she showed up. She like did everything she could to help him, and then showed up and sees him making out with his ex, and took it pretty well, all things considered. So it's like,
get over it.
Kitty deserves better, but also the way she says, "I couldn't fly, I couldn't swing, I couldn't go there," and Mary Jane's like, "Go there, get him." And she's like, "Yeah, you know what? You're right. I'm going to go."
Yeah.
That's a little silly. Also,
and she swung with Peter before, too.
And she can walk on air.
Grabbed her. Can she?
She can, yeah.
Well, I figured that's partially how they were all getting around the city.
Oh,
she's
yeah.
like
She was just
helping them
walking
to
them around.
yeah, kind of.
Probably. But I think the real purpose of this was like Kitty has to get them to safety, and now she can go back into the fray. And they're like
Okay, great.
in Brooklyn, so they're theoretically safe now.
Okay, awesome. At least it's not like it's the end of the world and the biggest story ever, and we're spending a bunch of time on teenage girl drama.
15-year-old girls slapping each other over a boy who ain't okay. Yeah, so that's a terrible scene. I will judge the issue accordingly. But we're out of it. We get a flashback to 2 months ago in Doctor Strange's house. And I said, you can tell it's after the story where all the street-level heroes teamed up against Kingpin. Because they're talking about Daredevil. And Strange is showing Peter around and explaining all of his magical to him. And Peter asks about a big purple orb, and Strange says it's a doorway to the dark dimension, where everything that doesn't belong on this earth lives. And Peter's like, hey man, is that safe to have? And Strange explains that his window is the seal of the Ancient One, and as long as it's not broken, everything is cool, man. And we cut back to the present, where Spider-Man is watching
he says, what if someone broke it? He says that thing, the window, and they say, yeah. And he says, what if someone broke it? And Wong says, why would someone do that? They don't really, I mean, they sort of make a comment about how the house is protected, but they really don't say anything that would make you infer that the window is protected by something more than just like a window. Like some kids playing baseball in the street could have broken this window.
Yeah, and he makes a joke about like, and we have a very expensive security detection service. Yeah. It's like, okay, cool. That'll really help you know that the window's been broken.
These guys are idiots, dude.
They're so bad.
Wonder this is the universe that just like gets obliterated.
These are its defenders.
The only like good heroes are like the street level ones.
Well, it cracks
everyone
me
who's
up.
in charge of big things is totally out to lunch all the time.
There's like 10 different people or groups or companies in the New York City area that are just keeping something in their basement that could end humanity. And every single one of them is just banking on, well, nothing will happen to it. And one of those groups of people is just these two dickheads.
Yeah, and then all at once, all of them, everything happens.
Yes. Good movie. Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
That's what that reminded me of. Okay, so we're back in the present. Spider-Man's watching all sorts of monsters pour out of the Sanctum Sanctorum. Who could have seen this coming? Hulk is just smashing away, mostly hitting the building instead of the monsters. He's like an overstimulated child. And Peter tries to explain that he needs to smash the monsters, but before he can, he sees the silhouette of Doctor Strange coming out of the house. And Peter's like, oh good, he's alive. Hey, Strange. And we see a gross, drooling Doctor Strange. And he's like, his head's kind of slumped over. You can tell something's weird with him. And Peter says, Hulk, hit that. And Hulk says, don't tell Hulk what to do. Peter's like, seriously? The one time I give you something to hit and you give me an attitude? And Strange says, I know you. You were once a gorgeous vessel for me. And Peter realizes that Strange is possessed by Nightmare. John, we remember Nightmare, right?
Definitely. Wasn't that a good issue? Oh, until it like ended. It like ended anticlimactically, right?
With Peter too afraid to go on his fancy date with Mary Jane.
But the fight with Nightmare ended kind of anticlimactically, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, there was a lot of build-up, and he was, like, a really cool villain, and then he just, like, got beat somehow.
It was some sick panels, and then Doctor Strange just swooped in and saved the day.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And Nightmare shows Hulk his fears, and waves of people appear to the Hulk and tell him, you killed us all, and start asking him why. Which I didn't buy. I don't think the Hulk has remorse. Not this one, not in this universe. But we're to believe he does.
Well, I don't think he does, because he doesn't seem to care that much about this. But it is interesting that this is like where Nightmare went with, this situation. But it doesn't seem like Hulk cares to me. He's not acting any differently than normal Hulk. He's just like shouting and smashing,
We know if he really wanted to say something that would freak Hulk out, he would show Freddie Prinze Jr. giving Betty Ross.
This would be a better Nightmare for Banner, but also not the Banner in this universe, because he probably doesn't care either. This would be a good Nightmare for Bruce Banner in the MCU.
A better version of the Hulk.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
And, this makes me think about, in the second Avengers movie, what did Scarlet Witch probably, make Hulk see that caused him to go and, start demolishing things? Interesting. I just assumed she, made him just whatever. Just beat stuff up. Do you think she gave him a vision like this?
Dude, I haven't seen that movie in so long. I'm trying to think of what you're talking about. All I'm coming up with is sun's getting real low, big fella.
Oh, but you know what? Now that I think about it, Okay, so they're fighting Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch for the first time. And she's giving them all visions, right? And then Bruce Banner comes stumbling out of the plane, and it's assumed she gives him some sort of a vision, and he turns into the Hulk, and he just goes and starts destroying stuff. And then Tony Stark has to put on the big armor and run him through the city and knock him out.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. I don't know. Why are we talking about this again?
Because you brought it up.
Okay. Well, what do you think? Since I brought it up,
I don't know, dude. Like I said, I need to rewatch the movie. I don't really know the scene.
I don't know either. I think she just turned him into the Hulk.
Okay.
Yeah.
That checks out. That's part of her power set now.
Well, she can make him. She can probably affect his brain in some way, right?
John, is something affecting your brain in some way?
No, you don't think that she could do that?
Probably. I don't know, dude.
Okay. Anyway, Hulk doesn't care about these dead people.
No, he doesn't. I think he's actually trying to smash them, which is funny. He's being confronted with all the people he's smashed, and he's doubling down on the strategy of smashing them. And Peter tells him to run away, and then the Nightmare hits Peter with his own fears, and he sees the Sinister Six standing in front of him and thinks, I should take my own advice and get out of here. But somehow the Nightmare Doc Ock grabs Peter by the head and throws him into a building, knocking him out. So that's the part where I'm like, interesting. Is Nightmare creating real people that can actually touch?
It is interesting because, yeah, how are they actually attacking him?
I don't know. And we see Hulk get overtaken by the people he had killed. And then for the next scene, we get hit with a pretty jarring art style change.
I wonder if these people are actually people that Hulk has killed, or if Nightmare just spawned a bunch of random looking people.
I mean, I don't think it matters because the Hulk has killed so many people. It's not like he's going to know the faces of his victims anyways.
It would be nice if we got some internal thought from the Hulk here.
Or ever.
Yeah. Because this is kind of an interesting concept, and we don't really get anything about it at all.
Yeah. I think it would have maybe been cool if, he was just immune to Nightmare. What scares this guy who's just a killing monster with no fears or remorse? Nothing.
Yeah. That's true also. That would have been good.
Okay, so we're in the new art style, and you can tell it's the same pencils and ink, but the color palette is more limited, and it makes the comic look older and more cartoonish. You can kind of tell what they're going for immediately, where
it's definitely supposed to look like the 60s, like Spider-Man.
Yes, it's retro. And actually, Peter is dressed and his hair and glasses look like his 1960s counterpart.
He's a big dork. We talked about it in the very first episode we did. He's got a dorky vest on and a dorky tie and dorky glasses.
And dorky hair.
And dorky hair.
Yep. And this is actually a scene from that issue, Amazing Fantasy 15.
I was wondering if it was. Ah, man, I kind of made a mental note to go back and read that issue to see, but I didn't.
It's weird. It's an amalgamation between that and the versions of Ben and May that we've gotten in the Ultimate Universe. But it still has the Stan Lee dialogue. Gosh, Uncle Ben, you're worse than a room full of alarm clocks.
Do they ask about wheat cakes?
I think they might, yeah. But it's just this very uncanny valley moment where Ultimate Spider-Man is in a situation and clothes, and he's saying things that he would never say because he's a different person. But it's like familiar to the reader if we've read Ultimate or Amazing Fantasy 15. It's just this very weird amalgamation between two versions of Peter that can't exist in the same universe. And he's like trying to figure out what's going on because he can tell something's a little off. And he says, Uncle Ben, you're dead. And we see a gross, scary corpse of Uncle Ben with a hole in his head who says, you sure saw to that, didn't you, kiddo? Why don't you do the right thing and kill yourself? I think of all the stuff in this issue that doesn't work, this page is like the standout in terms of like what's done well.
Oh, okay. Phew. Whew. I thought you were about to say this page like doesn't work, and I was gonna have to be like, oh, dude, I kind of liked it. Yeah. No, I liked it. I thought it was good fun. Now, yeah. I thought you were going to say it didn't work because the whole, like, you should kill yourself. And we hear that a lot in this issue. Like, it kind of gets repeated over and over again, it seems.
That's what Nightmare was trying to get him to do the first time they met.
Okay. Yeah. I don't really like hearing that, but that's fine for the story. I was even thinking while reading it, I was like, I don't really like that, but it's like, it's not a bad thing in the story. It's just something, you know.
Yeah.
It's bad to tell people to kill themselves.
Exactly. It's a lot like Dave Grohl fathering a child with his mistress. We don't condone it, but...
Yeah, but he's a nightmarish creature, so it makes sense that he might say that.
Right. Okay, so then we're back in the regular art style, and he's getting jumped by everyone. The Sinister Six, Carnage, even Daredevil gets a lick in.
I have a problem with them putting Daredevil on the cover of this issue when we just saw him like dead in the previous one.
He's not. The cover of this issue is Mary Jane and Kitty fighting.
Oh, okay. Well, then he must be the cover of my issue, and I have a problem with it.
Yeah. If you haven't noticed yet, the cover of Ultimates frequently shows people who are dead or barely in the story.
Yeah.
We cut to Jessica, who is swinging around looking for Peter because Aunt May told her to save him. And she sees the purple lights and follows them. And Nightmare is standing over Peter gloating. And I said he kind of looks like Ultimate Electro here.
Well, okay. Yeah, and on the previous page, it is interesting as he's like getting beaten up by like all of his villains and Daredevil, he's like thinking to himself how he's like messed up. He's like, this is all my life has amounted to, boxed in by a bunch of crazies. I tried so hard to make a difference and blah, 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 blah. And as he's like having these like negative thoughts to himself, Nightmare is like getting stronger. And then at the end he says, thank you, Peter. And I think he's like fully formed at this point.
Yeah, because he's like feeding off of his fears and insecurities.
Yeah.
And this also, I gotta say, kind of feels like one way that you would maybe write this issue if you thought it was leading to Peter dying.
Would you? This would be really sad.
I think
my life has meant nothing. Everything I've done has failed and dead.
Yeah, I don't think Ultimatum is supposed to be an optimistic event.
But I think Brian Michael Bendis cares more about his character than to like let him go out like that.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, eventually, he won the office argument over whether or not they should kill Peter. But I'm wondering if at this point he was
I don't know. Maybe. Spoilers.
Okay.
Dude.
We've talked about this.
But I don't know if you're ever like bluffing or doing a double bluff or like a triple bluff.
Okay. We'll see what happens. I'm just putting it on the radar that some people want to kill Peter in Ultimatum and some people don't want to kill Peter in Ultimatum.
Okay.
And so the way Peter's appearances in Ultimatum read is very interesting from that perspective. Okay, so Nightmare's standing over him. Hulk grabs Nightmare and tries to rip him apart, and somehow Nightmare gets away, but runs back into the purple orb in Strange's house. And Hulk chases him and smashes the orb, which causes a mini purple mushroom cloud that Jessica, Kitty, Aunt May, and MJ all see from where they're standing. So Peter was just at the epicenter of whatever this blast was.
Oh, no.
And the issue ends.
Oh, my God. Okay, what do we think about this?
Oh, man. I don't know what the hell that cloud is, though. Like, is it mystical energies? Is it an actual explosion that explodes things? I don't know what to think of it yet.
I assumed it was an explosion.
It certainly looks like it, but you never know.
I'm still kind of holding out hope that there was a reason they changed Peter's backstory to, like, the Hulk killed his parents. Because we just, like... It's not like the Hulk and Spider-Man couldn't have done all of these things that they've done together over the last 2 or 3 issues without that backstory, you know?
Right.
So, I don't know. It would be nice to actually have a conversation where there's some, like, you know, exposition on what happened or some closure for the story. But we're probably not getting it because you've said that this storyline sucks a bunch of times. So
I'm sorry, I'm trying not to spoil things, but it's hard for me to talk about Ultimatum for very long without my bias coming through.
Okay, so but about this issue in particular, what do you think?
Well, let me just say again, I love the art. Stuart Immonen has made looking at the Ultimatum issues very enjoyable. And the colors are great, and I love that page that's like muted colors to look more retro. That's just so cool. I don't really have much to say about the writing or the story other than it just kind of feels like the same things keep happening. The plot's not really progressing, and the cat fight was really reductive, and I thought it didn't do MJ's character any favors. It just looks really petty and stupid, and, you know, let the girls get along.
Yeah, it's definitely different from, like, last week, where we talked about how, like, the Spider-Man issue was so good, and it's, like, Brian Michael Bendis, like, trying to do his best. And this didn't feel like that. It, like, I don't know. It more felt like how the Ultimatum issues feel like, which you said it really well, where you're like, the story's not really going anywhere and the same things are just kind of keep happening. And yeah, that is kind of what it felt like.
For all the excitement I felt last week where I'm like, ooh, they just released a bunch of demons into New York. Are we going to get like a knockoff Inferno story? this was not that. Like, we weren't even dealing with the demons and monsters and everything. We have no idea what happened to those things. Did they just run off? Were they killed in this blast? We don't know because they didn't matter.
Yeah. We're dealing with a lot of apocalypse level events right now. Unfortunately because of that, none of them are like being given enough storyline.
Exactly. We can't even nail down between these issues and Ultimatum issues how underwater New York is. If you read just Ultimatum, you would think this giant wave came through and then subsided immediately.
I think that is kind of what happened, and that's probably why the kids are able to like get around.
But then we see in the art in these issues, it's like, nope, half the city's still underwater.
I think maybe it's like, but it's like a calm water, right? So it's not like there's still a bunch of, I mean, there's obviously probably a bunch of chaos, but it's not like there's water rising and falling and like toppling down the streets and everything. I think it's all been pushed out, and then probably some areas, you know, are still like off limits because they're underwater.
Sure. And conveniently, everything we see is just dry as a bone.
Well, conveniently, Kitty is taking them around. She's taking the sewers and to get to the dry places.
That's the other thing. New York flooded, and we saw Wolverine walking around in the sewers. And it's like, wouldn't that be the first thing that fills up with water?
Yeah. Wow. Come on, Bendis.
Actually, I think that was in Ultimatum.
Come on, Loeb.
Yep. All right. I give this one a 6 out of 10 petty catfights.
Okay. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair score. I'll give this a 6 out of 10 petty catfights also.
It'd be a 5 out of 10 if the art wasn't so damn enjoyable.
Yeah, the retro scene is fun.
And seeing all the villains and stuff. Like, I'm looking at a scene right now where Venom and Rhino are like tag teaming Spider-Man, and it just looks cool.
You know, I specifically wanted to see one thing, and I didn't see it. And because of that, I don't know, maybe it's down to a 5.5, but I wanted to see Aunt May in a wedding dress with either Doc Ock or Norman Osborn. I can't remember. because that's Peter's biggest nightmare. I think we know. And that we should have seen that one.
That was really funny.
We should have seen all of the villains teaming up to fight, and then the Green Goblin tonguing Aunt May. Or Norman Osborn, whichever one it was.
Yeah, that would be pretty upsetting, I think, for the readers, too.
Okay, Ultimatum Part 4. We're really getting down to it here. Written by Jeff Loeb, art by David Finch, inked by Danny Mickey, colored by Aspen's Peter Steigerwald, and lettered by RS and Comic Craft. And boy, we might not have talked about it at the end of the last issue, but Captain America's shirt is ripped, just exposing a perfect amount of chest hair.
Not too much, not too little.
No, yep. That's a good Captain America amount of chest hair. And we pick right up where we left off with the Hulk doing a big Hulk smash and completely destroying the Sanctum Sanctorum, and it at least appearing as if Peter is almost completely disintegrated in the explosion. His like mask is like starts cracking, and his mask is all that's left on the ground, and Kitty finds him soon afterwards. So with Hulk's big smash, he released the Dark Dimension things, and Dormammu appears towering over the city, saying, "Freed at last." And I've only seen Dormammu in the MCU. But he doesn't look very cool in this comic, I don't think.
Right.
I don't know what I would expect him to look like, but I don't like this. But also, I kind of do.
He's like dorky in a fun way.
Exactly.
But he doesn't look like a world-destroying threat, which is the whole deal. It's like, if Dormammu ever gets to our dimension, we are toast. So we have to keep him locked up.
Yeah. Like, he's not that big. Like, Giant Man could have a punch-up battle with him. Doctor Strange says that Spider-Man sacrificed himself to stop Dormammu. So I don't know, maybe Spider-Man is dead. And Dormammu's wearing a gold medallion around his neck, and Johnny Storm is imprisoned in it. And I don't know how this happened either. What did I miss?
John, I love that we were able to go, whatever it was, like 84 episodes before we got to something that was like this confusing, because this is a common occurrence when you're reading comics. Ultimate Spider-Man is so good about staying insulated in itself that you don't get a lot of stuff like this. But if you're just reading like a regular Marvel comic most of the time, there's like a couple things every issue where you're like, wait a minute, did I miss something? What's going on? And either
this probably happened in a Fantastic Four standalone.
Exactly. It either happened in some other issue, or sometimes they just introduce new stuff that's never been said before, and everyone's confused, even if you're reading everything.
They go, well, surely no one's reading all of these. So they'll all just be like, oh, this must have happened in a different one.
Yeah. That happened to me not that long ago. It was like during the fall of Krakoa in the X-Men, and I was reading every issue, and I picked one up, and they're just like, there's a completely new status quo. They're like, all right, Juggernaut is dragging the island of Krakoa across a big desert. And I'm like, where the hell did this come from? And I looked online, and everyone else was asking the same thing because it came out of nowhere.
That's funny. I wonder...
They truly just, like, said, forget about it. We don't have time to tell you how we got from point A to point B. Just roll with where the story is.
Yeah. So Johnny Storm is imprisoned in Dormammu's big medallion, but Strange doesn't seem too concerned about it. He's very confident he can stop Dormammu with a spell, but Dormammu chides him, saying, your father and grandfather and great-grandfather all claim to have the title of Sorcerer Supreme, with you being the last, the least. And because you have no son, your lineage dies tonight. And he wraps up Strange with his own belt, and then he squeezes him until he pops. And it's pretty upsetting.
This is like...
It's pretty Ultimate, I'd say.
Yeah. Ultimate is just now the stand-in for, like, graphic or unnecessary. This looks like something you would see in The Boys or Invincible.
It does. Yep.
Pops his head like a balloon, and they show all the blood.
But Dormammu is right. This is the worst Doctor Strange. Isn't this guy like a Dr. Phil like talk show hawking his magic pills or something?
Yeah, he's like a party magician who knows a little bit of magic.
Yeah. So, I don't know. He probably should have been more worried when it actually hit the fan.
Yeah. The whole time, I mean, I kind of was like waiting from the very first team-up issue where we met Doctor Strange, where they're like, well, and then his dad, who's the real Doctor Strange, disappeared, and we don't know where he is.
Oh, that's right.
And it's
he
like...
never came back.
They sowed those seeds just for them to never matter.
Huh. Maybe he had his own Ultimate run.
He didn't.
Well, okay. So let's see. Just as Steven has exploded, Sue Storm and the Thing show up. And this begins one of my issues, which we've probably seen before, that the heroes keep coming in to help right as their friends die. You know, they're just getting there too late. And it's like very it's always very quickly too late. Seems like they could have rushed.
I mean, last time we saw her, she was like dying on an operating table too.
This is the worst of it. Or this is like the least of it. Okay. It gets worse. If it was just like this, I wouldn't have had that thought.
And it's so funny. Doctor Strange just got murdered, and the Thing shows up. It's like, the freaking cavalry's here.
The cavalry has arrived.
Dude, read the room.
You're welcome, Doctor Strange. So, but also as this happens, a shadowed figure walks past the exploded body of Doctor Strange and says, "Sigh, Stephen." And I'm not sure who that is. Do you know?
It looks like they maybe like teleport his body or do some energy thing or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know what was happening. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know who that is?
I don't. I'm actually going to look it up online while you're talking.
Well, surely it'll be in the next issue. Surely
there's some dropped plot.
Surely they won't just leave this.
There's some dropped plots from Ultimatum. I'm going to see if this is one of them.
Okay, well, I'll keep reading.
Okay.
So elsewhere, the army is attacking the Hulk, trying to take him down, and a red beam comes through their helicopter. And it's Scott that shot it. And he says, the next one goes through the propeller blade. Leave the Hulk alone, and we'll leave you alone. And This was a good moment. This was one of the good ones, I thought. This was some good Cyclops here.
Hell yeah. I got an answer. I looked it up. This is one of the unresolved plot threads from Ultimatum. He's never reappeared. No one knows who this mysterious figure is. Just forget about it.
It was never even said oh yeah, that was supposed to be
never mentioned
or
again.
Something. It was probably Nightmare.
I'm guessing it was his father. I'm guessing it was like the real Doctor Strange.
Well, the thing is, here's what it looks like. It looks like he has a hammer in his hand on the left. And to me, that almost looks like a mask that would go around his face on the right. Okay? So I'm sure someone has looked at those things that are in his hand, and they have come up with theories of what that person is holding. And it's probably not a hammer, and it's probably not a mask because, right, we know it's not Thor. Or maybe it is. I don't know. But Magneto has Mjolnir. Maybe it's Magneto. Who knows?
I mean, that makes no sense, but it would somehow also make more sense than what we've got, which is nothing.
Yeah. Well, that's too bad. I was kind of looking forward to seeing who that was. Okay, so Scott just had a good moment of team up with the Hulk. So that's a point that we're going to give the issue. And Logan is trying to get the Hulk to help them, but the Hulk wants to fight. You know, he's just in his Hulk form. And Hulk says he tore Wolverine in half, and Logan says, "Yep, I was kind of hoping we weren't going to have to go through that again." So that must have been something from the Ultimate X-Men. They had a fight, and the Hulk won.
Probably.
And is this what, like, in Wolverine and Deadpool, is this what they were referencing when the Hulk and Logan fight, or is that a different, like, famous fight?
No, the first appearance of Wolverine in any comics was he fought the Hulk in the Hulk's series. And then, like, a year later, he joined the X-Men.
Okay. But he already had the X-Men uniform on in Deadpool and Wolverine.
He had, like, a stupid, like...
It was like a brown and... Okay, I don't know. Yeah, you know better. Okay, so they're about to fight, and then Jean Grey runs out in front of the Hulk, and he stops in his tracks and says, "Hulk, help pretty girl." And they set out to find Colossus. One thing we know about the Hulk in the Ultimate Universe is he's aggressively horny.
He's like an unneutered dog.
That's what it... Yeah, I mean, I think he's specifically supposed to be like almost drawn as like a puppy dog, and he's got like hearts coming out of his head.
But
He's
they
like
can
a
also
puppy dog in love.
kill and rape and eat people and destroy buildings.
But he hasn't done that in a while.
Yeah. He's acting good today. He gets a treat.
And now we get some interesting stuff, because I'll be honest, the Hulk is getting way too much screen time in these last, dude, it's the biggest storyline ever. Why are we focused so much on the Hulk?
And he's not doing anything either. He's just
he can't speak.
He's like everyone's child.
Yeah. There's so many more interesting characters to focus on. And we're with one of them now. We meet up with Nick Fury. He's leaving what looks like the White House in the Supreme Power universe when Reed, Doom, and I don't remember the other two people's names.
That's okay. They're from the Squadron Supreme. They don't matter.
Okay. And they tell him that they need him to come back. And they explain that Magneto tilted the world's axis. And Fury says, the Doomsday Protocol. And then he tells them all that he warned them that this would happen if they took him out, him being Fury. And they're like, well, now we need your help. And Fury's like, I'll only help Doom. Tell him whatever. And he's like, otherwise I'm not helping. And Doom says that he, being Doom, made an error in judgment. And he thought that by taking Fury out, Magneto would start a war and Doom could pick up the pieces and rule the world after it was over. But he never thought Magneto would destroy the entire human race. And then he says, what good is a king with no kingdom? And maybe I only like Doctor Doom so much because I'm a Robert Downey Jr. fanboy, obviously, but I do like Doctor Doom. He's actually one of the more interesting characters in this universe that we've met up with, or in this storyline, I should say.
That's interesting. I don't feel like this would be Doom's MO. I feel like he would say he's not interested in ruling the world. He's interested in ruling Latveria or some like that. Or I feel like he would say he doesn't need anyone else to take over the world. You know, Doom can do it Doomself.
I think he's like, I just want to be in charge, but, you know, everyone needs to be alive. I'm not really a bad guy.
Right. Yeah, for sure. But that, I think, is accurate and in keeping with the character.
So they all go back to the Ultimate Universe. And at the Parker house, Kitty is sitting on the roof with Logan. And she shows him Spider-Man's masks and tells him what happened, that there's a flash of light and he was gone.
And it's like in tatters.
Yep. And Logan gives her a very old-looking box and tells her to hold on to this for him. He says that they're going up against Magneto, and if he doesn't come back, open it, and she'll know what to do. And Kitty asks why she can't go with him to fight. And Logan says, because when all this is over, they're going to need good people, and you're one of the best. Aw.
Aw.
What's in the box? Do we find out?
We'll have to see.
Okay. So I guess we do. At least
We should keep like a running list of all the questions we have coming out of Ultimatum and see how many of them get an answer.
That would have been a really good idea, actually.
Damn. Okay.
Damn.
Let's start the podcast over from episode 1 and do this right.
So a ragtag team of heroes fly in to fight Magneto on his big rock in the sky. And first Angel jumps in, like through the wall, and he gets a pretty good punch on Magneto, but then Magneto's like, Sabretooth, deal with this. And Sabretooth very easily and very ultimately takes him out. And he just starts eating him, kind of. Before getting a Hawkeye arrow to the eye. And we see Hawkeye, and I just think this is so goddamn stupid, Zach. I just hate it so much. Why is Hawkeye's not shooting arrows from a bow. Hawkeye has 2 guns, and instead of bullets, they just shoot arrows.
It's
what is the purpose of this? If you're gonna shoot guns, just shoot guns. But Hawkeye shoots arrows, so just give him a bow and arrow. It's what makes him cool.
It literally isn't even a crossbow. It's like he built a crossbow on top of a real pistol.
It's so dumb.
It looks like the stupidest thing ever.
And he's dual wielding them. So it's just
How can he reload?
That's true. That's a good point, because it can only fit one arrow at a time.
So now Angel is super dead. His blood's everywhere. His guts everywhere.
And exactly, Angel dies, and then Hawkeye shows up 1 second later after Angel dies, right? Once again, and then what were you about to say? Something else?
Oh, and then Sabretooth gets shot in the eye, and he's supposedly dead, and his blood is everywhere. It's just really
ultimate.
Yeah, that's it. It doesn't feel like anything we've seen so far in what we've been covering.
And let's see, where are we? Oh, okay. So then Magneto grabs Thor's hammer, and he begins to fight when Valkyrie steps in front of him. And she tells him that she wants Thor's hammer, and Magneto's like, okay, and goes to hit her with it, and she slices off his arm. And this was another good moment.
This kind of ruled.
And the Cyclops moment. Yeah, they both ruled. But Magneto's not happy about that. He says that was the last brave thing you'll ever do, and he magnetically grabs the sword from her and slices her throat with it. Oh, darn it. And just then, 1 second after she dies, Cap jumps in. And
I don't think she did die, by the way.
I don't know, dude. Her throat is pretty slit. Usually that kills people, but you've read the storyline before.
I know that panel shows it, but then she's just standing there in the next page. So that panel kind of sucks.
Yeah, you're right. She is.
I think it might be that he just took the sword from her and it still had his own blood on it, and that blood is flying off the sword. But this is indicative
I don't
of.
Think so. I don't know.
This is bad storytelling.
Still got her.
This should be.
But it obviously didn't
clear.
Kill her. Yeah. Okay, good. See, and you know what? Gosh, maybe they did this on purpose, right? Sue Storm and the Thing, they come in a second too late. Hawkeye comes in, he's a second too late. But you know who doesn't show up a second too late? Captain America.
Your boy.
He shows up and saves the day for a brief moment. So he jumps in and he gets a good punch in before Magneto buries him beneath the rubble of the building, which I think we can just assume has some metal in it, which would be a smart thing for Magneto to do. You know, he would build his thing with some metal in it, so he can do that. And he then flies towards the remaining X-Men and Iron Man, who are still, in the fight, and towers above them in what's actually a pretty coolly drawn panel. But then he's just kind of shouting some scripture in them about God destroying the world, and the issue ends.
Wow, what a cool ending, man. It really makes me want to read another one.
Well, they've been building up a big fight with Magneto for a long time, and we still haven't really gotten it. Captain America came in and punched him one time, and that's really all we care about.
Yep.
I don't care about Angel fighting Magneto. I don't care about Hawkeye fighting Magneto. The Valkyrie thing was kind of cool because Thor is dead. So that's, but other than that, we are still waiting for any type of a big battle.
Well, the good news is it looks like it's coming next week.
Good.
The bad news is he's quoting Bible scriptures at them instead of fighting.
He's been doing that a lot this run. That's all he says anymore.
It's weird that they made Magneto kind of a Christian figure, or at least super familiar with the Christian Bible.
I think he's really into the Old Testament, obviously, of God destroying the world and,
Yeah.
I don't know.
He stopped reading after that part.
Yeah. So what do we think of this one?
Uh, man, it's just not good.
It's not very good.
It's unclear what's ever happening. It kind of feels like it's meandering instead of purposely going to scenes that will tell us something about these characters or the plot. They just put too much on the board and are now just kind of resolving it any way that they can instead of, it seeming like this was purposeful from the start.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they're doing a lot of build up. I think the problem is they need a couple more issues. Like, we still don't have the whole team together. Where is Doom and Reed and Fury, right? Obviously, we're going to see them again in the next one, but when you think about like a good movie or a superhero movie or The Boys or doesn't have to be superhero movies, but usually the people like come together like midway through, or maybe like even like 3/4 of the way through, but definitely not like right at the end. You're finally seeing like all the team come together. That's no fun.
Yeah, I kind of feel like these are the people who are fighting Magneto. I mean, it would be really hard for anyone else to show up before this battle has to conclude one way or the other.
But surely Doom and Reed and Fury will show up at some point in the next issue.
I mean, yeah, they've got stuff to do.
Surely they will.
Yeah.
They have to.
I think that might just be setting up post-Ultimatum status quo stuff, though.
Okay. All right. What are we going to rate this?
That is the voice of a man who has been broken. You were so excited going into Ultimatum. You liked the first 2 issues, and now you're seeing what I was talking about.
It could have been good. It could have been good.
It really could have. That's the thing. There was like maybe a version of this story that feels big and impactful and not just stupid and edgy for the sake of being stupid and edgy. Yeah. But this is what we got.
We needed more blob eating people.
If they had really showed more about Angel,
they should have doubled down.
I really wanted to see both of his wings come out and maybe part of his spine with it. They just weren't. They weren't gory enough, man.
There was a panel. There is a panel where I actually thought Sabretooth like ripped his head off with his teeth for a second, and I had to like really look at the panel and be like, okay, no, I think he's just like dragging him across the ground, so it kind of looks like that. But I don't know. Even looking at it again, he might have capitated his head from his body.
I think he did. He just stomped on it with a boot, and you just see the eyes bulge out. It's very upsetting.
It's fucking ultimate.
That it is, John.
Okay, what's our rating? Out of how many, I don't know, dead heroes? We've probably done that one before, but it sure seemed like a lot of them died in this one.
Yeah. Funny how much that happens these days.
Out of graphic deaths, I don't know, like a 5. I mean, it wasn't that much worse than the last one, but the last one wasn't good either. So
right. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 graphic deaths.
Oh, okay. I gave it a 5 out of 10, so that'd be a 2.5 out of.
That's what I meant to say.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. Okay. 4 out of 10 graphic deaths.
Okay. Pretty good.
Cool. And then next week we finish it off.
This is exciting.
Are you glad to be done with it, or are you going to miss it?
No, I wish that it had more issues. I'm being serious when I say that. This could have been a good storyline if we got to see more stuff. Like, I get it. We're reading a Spider-Man comic and we want to deal with Spider-Man, but it's fun to deal with all of the other heroes,
Sure. Yeah. And when I say that we'll be done with Ultimatum, I'm kind of being facetious because there's like, falling action issues also that are like, one shots or whatever, and we'll read some of those.
So would you say So this Ultimatum issue 5, is it like the climax, and then we get falling action resolution?
Definitely.
Okay. Well, see, then it's not a good standalone story. Because as we all know, a good standalone story needs your inciting incident, your rising action, your climax, your falling action, and your resolution all in the same story.
That's right. And Kitty Pryde being the girlfriend of the
Pryde. Zach.
The writer's stand-in.
That's true. That's true. Every good story needs a writer stand-in who's dating Kitty Pryde.
There you go. All right. We done with Spider-Man stuff?
Yep, I think so.
Okay, cool. So, you got anything else?
No, but I just scanned briefly at my notes and I saw in all caps, "The cavalry is here." And that is just still really funny.
And then I don't think he proceeded to do anything.
I don't think either one of them did. The scene ended, actually, because then we see the mystery person sigh over Stephen Strange.
Yeah. So we're still waiting on the cavalry.
So that will probably be in the. I don't know. I am excited for these last 2 issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't have any more Spider-Man stuff.
Okay. All right. So John, I had something that I sent you this week. I said, remind me to talk about this on the pod. Did you see what those pictures were?
I don't remember what they were. I can go and look.
Yeah. Yeah, pull those up. So the DC, the people over at the Distinguished Competition, have seen how...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I didn't know what this was.
Okay, good. I was wondering if you knew about this or whatever. Basically, they saw how good the new Ultimate Universe is doing over at Marvel Comics, and they were like, we need to do our own thing. We're going to do an offshoot universe. And instead of it being Ultimate, it's Absolute, John. This is Absolute DC, and it's launching this year, and I'm excited. They've got Absolute Superman, Absolute Wonder Woman, and Absolute Batman. And I want you to look at the character design for Absolute Batman. What do you notice?
Well, they all look very ultimate or absolute, I don't know. What do I notice? What do I notice?
Batman fans argue about the chest thing. How big and bulky should his bat be? And some people complain when it's too bulky or whatever. And so they went all out and made it absolutely ridiculous.
Well, it's not it doesn't even look like a bat. I mean, it's just a big rectangle for the most part. It sort of looks like a bat where it's gold. In the gold where, but the picture where it's black, it looks nothing like a bat.
That's his bat
on his chest.
In this universe, and I love it. It's just a rectangle, and he's got an axe with it. And he chops a dude's hand off, so this ain't your father's Batman.
That's true. Well, so this probably will not be very good, or
I'm gonna read it. Superman looks like he might be evil. It looks like a Homelander, and I know.
Well, this ain't your father's Superman.
I know.
Hey, Zach,
a lot of
Superman can be evil sometimes.
He is evil often. I know someone who's a big Superman fan and is tired of all the evil Superman stories. Wonder Woman has a big ass sword, which we know John doesn't care about, but it looks pretty sick.
No, it doesn't.
I think I've finally...
It just doesn't. I was thinking the exact opposite thing. I was like, oh, and Wonder Woman looks evil too. Wow, this is a really exciting universe. We've never seen concepts like this before. Everyone just looks like a scary version of themselves.
I don't know what it is. It looks so stupid. I'm I love it. This has got to be my jumping on point for DC. For 20 years, I've had this hatred of DC that I don't know where it came from, where I was just well, you can only like one. You have to pick a side. So Marvel rules and DC rules. I think this might be what gets me to change my tune.
I don't think it will. But I have plenty of Batman graphic novels that are pretty good that you can read.
I also have them. I just never take books
okay.
off my bookshelf and actually read them.
Me neither.
It's my problem.
I should read some of those again also. It would be interesting to read some of them again and compare them to, these Spider-Man comics.
Yeah. Okay, so you're not as hype about this as I am, clearly, but
I'm hyped to get to hear about it from you.
Yes, I'm glad. I think every comic company should have a side universe with a ridiculous adjective that describes it.
So do I, actually. That's a good idea.
I want to get to like the stupendous Gravity Falls universe where everything's like dark and f***ed up and edgy.
They should do that. Well, maybe I'll read this with you when it comes out.
Yeah.
Okay. Even though I do think the next thing we need to read is the Ultimate Universe.
Okay,
I have to catch up with the maker. I'm still so interested in it. And Zach, I'm doing a really good job of not reading anything about it, even though I'm interested in it, because I'm like, I don't want to see stuff that will be like at the end of Ultimatum, blah 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 happens.
Sure. But it's hard, man. YouTube keeps feeding you maker stuff.
It does. It knows.
We'll talk once I stop recording about like the path forward and what we want to cover.
Okay.
I've got some ideas.
Okay.
Cool. All right. So that's Absolute DC. It's sick. Can't wait.
Good. When's it come out?
Dude, I don't know. I should probably have had that ready.
Let
me look it
okay,
up.
Well, I heard something this week while you're and gosh, this shows how little I guess I care about DC, but I think Joker might have come out. Or at least it got like shown at a film festival.
What? The Folie à Deux, like the sequel?
Joker 2. Folie à Deux.
Named after the Fall Out Boy album.
What's the thing that they always say at the end of Joker 2, Electric Boogaloo?
Yeah.
And what, is there a Fall Out Boy album called Folie à Deux?
Yeah, it was the album that like
what's that mean?
Broke them up. The madness of two. It's like a French term for when two people go crazy together.
What a perfect name for the Joker.
Yeah. And I think it's actually like Folie à Deux, but all the Fall Out Boy fans call it Folie à Deux.
Probably. And apparently, Zach, it got like a 12-minute standing ovation applause when it ended.
Okay, that sounds fake, but okay.
Well, apparently also that like happens for like every movie after it's shown at a film festival.
Right. I always hear that and then it ends up being like dog.
I think the I wonder what the highest ever. I'm going to look it up. Let's see. What's the longest standing ovation after a movie?
Dude,
22 minutes. Pan's Labyrinth at Cairns.
Wow.
Wait, is it? I don't think it is Cairns. Cairns is the Australian one. Cannes.
Yeah. Have you seen Pan's Labyrinth? It's weird.
I know it's a weird one. No, I've never seen it. I wonder if I would like it or not. It's got David Bowie as the
No, that's just Labyrinth. That's also weird. Pan's Labyrinth is weirder.
Oh.
Dude, in high school
So it's also Labyrinth that has like the man with the eyes like that? Or is that Pan's Labyrinth?
Dude, I can't even remember. In high school, I tried to rizz up a girl that was like, made me watch that and Spirited Away. And I'm like, wow, you're into some weird stuff.
Oh, Spirited Away. That has like a really weird person that I see sometimes also, isn't it? Like a famous
anime thing, yeah.
Weird.
Dude, speaking of anime.
Well, it got the longest ovation Pan's Labyrinth did. So what's that about?
Dude, I don't remember. I was like trying to
I
raise
know
up
you
this
were
girl.
probably
I
you were
wasn't
probably
watching the movie.
really worried about just like trying to hold her hand, or put your arm around her the whole time. Didn't follow 1 second of it.
It didn't work, and the movie didn't make sense.
A good night.
Yeah, memorable. Do you know what Letterbox is?
Yeah, isn't that where you could like send in movies and get them back or something?
Don't they like rank them too? They have like a
Oh, I don't
ranking of
know.
the top 250 movies ever.
I guess I didn't know that, but yeah, that sounds familiar.
And I got really invested in that list over the past week because they removed End of Evangelion from it because they said it doesn't qualify because it's a sequel to a show. And then there was some blowback from fans, and they were like, you know what? While we still think it shouldn't qualify for this list, art is subjective, and it's a badass enough movie. We re-added it.
Well, I think
never
it's
guess.
really, really stupid to not include a movie because it's. I mean, isn't that dumb anyways?
Yeah, because it's still a movie. It doesn't take
Yeah,
away
if they're
from the
ranking
movie.
movies just because it's based on a TV show shouldn't mean anything. I bet you there's a lot of movies that are based on other works that are on that list.
Oh, for
know.
sure. And it seemed like a pretty good list. It wasn't like super Americanized. Like there was a lot of foreign films and, things that it wasn't just based off of like how'd you sell at the box office.
Yeah.
But you would not believe how high they had out of top 250 movies, how high they had End of Evangelion.
You're right. I wouldn't ever guess that.
Throw out a number.
Well, because you just said that, I'm going to say something like 18 for Peyton Manning.
Okay. It was 23.
Oh, dude, that was like on my... If you knew how closely I was to saying 23 or 24, darn it.
Yeah, it was right behind Goodfellas and The Dark Knight. And it was like 8 spots. It was the highest rated animated movie ever. And it was like 8 spots above the next one, which is Spirited Away.
Wow, so what's number 1?
Number 1 was a Japanese film that I've never heard of.
Okay, what's the number 1 real movie?
I don't remember.
Let's see. Letterboxd top 250. Let's see where these superhero movies are landing.
I don't think they're on it.
Or where
The Dark Knight
sports movies are landing. Okay, number 1, let's see. This is a really annoying way to make this list. It's just the movie covers. But some of them don't have the name of the movie on it. Oh, okay. Come and See, 1985. That's number 2.
I've watched that movie. It's actually really good. It's a World War II movie made in the Soviet Union. And Soviet filmmaking was like really, really good. And the World War II veterans that saw it said it was like the most realistic movie they've ever seen for like the war.
Interesting. 12 Angry Men, number 3. And then I'd say the first modern movie is The Godfather. But I guess Come and See was actually out after The Godfather. So, I don't know. Oh, Shawshank Redemption. That's probably the first really, really famous movie. And it's not even The Godfather. It's actually The Godfather Part 2. The Godfather is number 10. So those movies were number 5 and number 10. I don't know, man. They probably weren't really that good.
I know there's like a lot of love for The Godfather in like the film community. I know that's like the overstatement of the year.
Yeah, but how much of that is now just like people being like, yeah, The Godfather was really awesome, Now I feel like it's just got a life of its own.
People get into like these echo chambers and it's like, well, you can't say anything bad about The Godfather. Family Guy did a bit about that, when they're like about to die and he's like, you know what? I got to say it. I did not care for The Godfather. And they all jump on his back.
I mean, I'm just sure that if I watched it, which I've never seen it, let me make a statement about the number 1 ranked film franchise of all time, having never watched it. But I'm sure that it's probably really slow moving.
It is.
Yeah.
And I'll say I'm not seeing 2001: A Space Odyssey on this list anywhere. I would have had that above The Godfather.
Well, I would put The Dark Knight above there. I would put, if I had to rank it, I would probably do The Dark Knight and then V for Vendetta and then Shooter starring Mark Wahlberg. And then after that, Four Brothers starring Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, I would have had The Departed starring Mark Wahlberg
and then,
a little higher.
And then after that, it would probably be The Departed starring Mark Wahlberg.
We can't forget Invincible starring Mark Wahlberg or the other guys co-starring Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, those are both good, but the funny thing about Shooter and what was the other, and Four Brothers and even The Departed those are actually like my favorite movies. If I know. Had to rank them.
Dude, Mark Wahlberg is such a shitty person. I hate how many movies I love that he's in.
My family has a tradition every year. Stop me if I've said this on the pod before, but my family has a tradition every year on Christmas Eve where we watch a Mark Wahlberg movie.
That's so funny and random.
And it's been that way since Four Brothers came out. That's what started that tradition, because we would always watch a Christmas movie and I managed to be like, this is a Christmas movie and it's about like brothers, like, you know, protecting their mom, and, you know, it's about like sons who love their mom and everything. And we watched it and it's obviously like, it's about that, but it's not a Christmas movie, and it's pretty, and that just started a beautiful tradition.
Yeah. He's such a tool, but man, if he doesn't, I don't know, his agent or something has like a knack for picking winners.
Yep, he does.
Yeah. Anyways, so this list is subjective, and, you know, like all art, you know, it doesn't really mean anything, but End of Evangelion, #1 animated movie of all time, is like, that's legit. That's goated.
And The Dark Knight is by far the highest comic book movie. Oh, actually, you know what? Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is number 32. And Into the Spider-Verse is 45. Those seem too high also.
You know what? I'll allow it. I kind of like those movies.
Well, I just mean those movies are not better to me than like
I swear if you say Civil War.
No, I'm not. I'm not thinking of Civil War, but it's funny because I couldn't think of the one I was thinking of. The Winter Soldier. The Winter Soldier is just as good of a movie as any of these. I would put it up there with Four Brothers and Shooter starring Mark Wahlberg.
Dude, imagine when Mark Wahlberg makes it to the MCU.
Now dude, he should have been Doctor Doom.
He kind of is Doctor Doom.
Oh, I wish I could pull off just an awesome Mark Wahlberg impression right now, being like, it's me, Doctor Doom. Say hello to your mother for me.
I feel like a really awesome Mark Wahlberg impression is just a bunch of slurs, and no one should attempt it.
Okay. Okay. Do you have anything else?
No, that was it. I just thought this little movie list was kind of cool.
I love it. I do like this movie list. I would say it would be fun to try and go down it and like actually watch these movies, but there's just no chance.
Dude, I had the same thought for about 2 seconds and then was like, you know, I could either do that or I could just like live my life. I can't do both.
But watching 250 movies, a lot of them which seem like they are very old or in another language, does not seem like a very good use of my time.
I mean, I think it'd be cool to like look at maybe the top 20 and just pick a few out that you've never heard of and check them out. But
The Prestige is on here. Christian Bale is also always in some good movies.
Well, yeah, Christian Bale is like the actor of our generation, though. Yeah. I don't think Mark Wahlberg is. I think he just gets lucky parts.
I think he just hates minorities.
Also factual.
Okay, and I see the Truman Show's on this towards the very, very end, which is a pretty good one. Okay, I'm done with this list. Okay. Oppenheimer made it. Okay,
cool.
Now
Me too.
Okay. Anything else, just in general? Do you have a jam of the week? Do you have trivia? Spider-Man trivia time? Ding.
It's Spider-Man trivia time. Ding. Dude, we are making it through this book. I have to flip so far now. Okay. Ooh, what other actors might have played Spidey in the 2002 film? Who else was considered?
Jake Gyllenhaal.
Okay, I don't see that on here.
Okay, then I wasn't sure if it would be, but I do know between Spider-Man either 1 and 2 or 2 and 3, that's where Tobey Maguire wanted more money, and there was talks about like Jake Gyllenhaal replacing him for Spider-Man. That's why there's a whole storyline in Entourage where Vince is going to be Aquaman, and they're like, they're getting Jake Gyllenhaal to replace you, Vinny Chase.
Wow, I had no idea. That would have sucked so bad.
I love Jake Gyllenhaal.
But if you already had seen Tobey Maguire be Spider-Man and then they changed it up, that would have been weird.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jake Gyllenhaal is a significantly better actor than Tobey Maguire, but you're right. It wouldn't have been fun to have him recast. Yeah. And at that young age that I obviously I'd have been like, but Tobey Maguire is Spider-Man.
Sure.
Okay, so it's not Jake Gyllenhaal, so who else would it have been? I'm just not gonna get this. I guess maybe I'll try and do Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, so there's a list of like 2 people that were really close to getting it, and then others that they considered. He's in the list of people they considered.
Okay.
I'll give you a hint.
Jr.?
Yes! I was going to say, we've mentioned him today.
Yep.
Yeah, Freddie Prinze.
Those are the 2 that I can remember. I don't know if I'll get any of the other ones. What are they?
I'll give you a hint. One of them was in another huge movie franchise around the same time.
Okay, so that would have had to have been X-Men. So who could have played X-Men? No? Oh, I was thinking superhero movie franchise. You just said movie franchise in general.
No, like the biggest you could get.
Yeah, okay. Is this going to be Orlando Bloom?
Dude, it was Ewan McGregor.
Oh, darn it. If I would have thought Star Wars, I probably would have gone with him, but I just thought Lord of the Rings first. Okay. One
of the other big front runners.
Oh, Ewan McGregor would have been great too. He's also a better actor than Tobey Maguire.
You were my brother, Harry. You were supposed to bring balance to Oscorp.
That's funny. That's awesome.
Okay, another guy who famously did a comic book movie role.
I don't know.
Heath Ledger.
Oh, okay.
And then I don't know who Wes Bentley is, but that's like the other person who was like in serious consideration.
He's the guy whose career never got off the ground.
Yeah. He's working in a supermarket somewhere saying, I could have been Spider-Man.
He is. You know who he is? He is the guy from the Hunger Games who's got the really weird beard that's like detailed, you know?
Oh, okay.
And looks interesting.
The games maker or god, whatever.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that guy's cool.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
I don't have any other thoughts beyond that. That was a good beard. Okay. Who turned down the role of Mary Jane Watson before Kristen Dunst was cast?
Who turned down the role of Mary Jane Watson before Kristen Dunst was cast? I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be able to come up with this one.
I wouldn't have. Kate Hudson.
Not as good. Kirsten Dunst wins. I'm not talking about acting skill, just in Mary Jane Watson's skill.
Yeah.
She was pretty good.
I think they did her dirty because everyone like hates her in those movies, but it's how she's written. The writers made her a bitch.
She's doing a lot of screaming and getting kidnapped.
And blaming Peter for like not going to her play.
But she does it all really well. And asking how many times Peter's been to her play. Because Harry's been on to it 5 times.
Yeah. Man, it irritates me how unlikable they made her when I
don't
Kristen
agree
Dunst.
with that. I thought she's fine.
Okay. True or false, Maguire was the first actor cast to play Spider-Man in a live-action movie.
False. I'm going to say someone else was cast when James Cameron was making his Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, apparently in 1985, there was an unmade Spider-Man film that had cast an unknown actor named Scott Leva. I don't know why that's even in here.
There's an unknown movie that cost an unknown actor. There's some trivia for you.
That was never made. Okay. All right. That was fun. Good trivia.
That was fun. Okay, what's the jam of the week? I don't have one because I've just been listening to the Chapel Roan album the whole week. So
hell yeah, I need to listen to more Chapel Roan. Mine is a departure. It's like the time that I said it was the Boys of Summer. There's just certain songs that I've tried to hate because they're not punk and they're like old people music, and you know, that's not what I'm usually about, but I can't deny they have the sauce. And the song that I've been listening to all week, because it has the sauce, is Islands in the Stream by Dolly Parton and Kenny Rogers.
Okay, this one, normally, Zach, when you give me a jam of the week, I don't ever check it out. I know that might surprise you. Islands in the Stream. But I'm going to check this one out because I do dig old person music and Dolly Parton jams.
It took me so long to realize that.
If you haven't heard 9 to 5 recently, oh man, it just goes hard.
9 to 5 is a bop, and it's also like very anti-capitalist. I love it.
I know. But yeah, so I'll check this one out. I actually thought you were going to say Island in the Sun by Weezer for a second, and I'm like, now that's also a jam. That's a big throwback. But I wouldn't have expected it to be the jam of the week.
Yeah. No, this is another song about islands.
Okay. Cool. That's a good one.
All right. Cool. We got anything else?
I don't. We've got one more episode till the end of Ultimatum and the end of this big countdown. I'm excited for it.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you to Ian Hickey for the music and Alyssa Seaman for the artwork. And thank you all for listening and leaving a review or a comment or telling a friend. You can find us, the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast, on Spotify or Apple Music or anywhere else you find podcasts. And you can come and chat with us and leave us a comment on Instagram at First Read Podcast. Send us an email at firstreadspidey@gmail.com or find us on YouTube, First Read Ultimate Spider-Man Podcast. See you next week.
See ya.